Finally done with this holiday scene in Blender. Now I can start my game review. Oh my god! The game I'll be reviewing is Penumbra, but since the game is broken up into a trilogy of games, Overture, Black Plague, and Requiem, I'll be reviewing them all. The Penumbra series was made by Frictional games, best known for their Amnesia series and Soma. The games play similarly and definitely share some DNA. Gameplay is simple, but can be tense. You will be running, hiding, collecting items, solving puzzles, and reading. You will be reading a lot. Reading isn't just for learning about the lore, but for figuring out where to go next, what to do, and how to do it. Unlike modern games that constantly remind you of your objectives, put waypoints on everything, and flat out don't trust players with even the simplest of tasks, this game makes you figure out things for yourself, organically, by giving you notes and diaries left behind by previous inhabitants to read through. These range from mundane reports and inventory sheets to a bomb-making handbook. At one point, I had to get a pen and paper out to decipher real Morse code using a written-out Morse code alphabet. I'm not even joking. You better have your gamer pen and gamer paper out, because you'll need it. So if you're a brainlet who refuses to read, this game will be difficult for you and your smooth, wrinkleless brain. But if you're a 200 plus IQ Sigma gamer with Batman-like detective skills, this game is for you. There are a number of puzzles and puzzling situations, but a game is not carried by puzzles alone. Unless it's literally a puzzle game. But this game isn't. This game is a survival horror game.
Oh, fuck me!
With an interesting story. You are Philip, a university physics teacher in the distant year 2000. After attending your mother's funeral, you receive a letter from your estranged, deceased father. A lot of dead parents in the first minute of this game. In this letter from the beyond, your dead father explicitly tells you to destroy some notes and books that he had in a P.O. box. So of course Philip, being the reasonable person that he is, thinks that's code from his dead dad to read and investigate the notes he left behind. I have a feeling that Philip is the person at the bar that has trouble understanding what no means. He then quits his job, makes his way to the coordinates on the map he found amongst the notes, leading him to an undisclosed location in Northern Ireland, which he decided to try to find through a whiteout blizzard, find a single ominous hatch and enter it with only a glow stick, a flashlight, and hope. He did this all without telling anyone where he was going. Like an absolute Chad. From there, the game begins. Hold up. I'm gonna be explaining some things I like or dislike about this game, but in order to do so, I'll be showing and or explaining some areas or scenarios. Since this game has story elements, I will also be talking about some events that happen in the series. So if you want to be surprised by that, I suggest you go play the game. Back to the review. You will quickly find out, just from the first area, that this game requires you to explore rooms fully to progress. After you find the hammer, you are shown that brute force is always an option. If a puzzle can't be solved by finding items, it is usually solved by breaking stuff, and break stuff we will. With the Zelda puzzle behind you, you enter the first real level of the game. I don't care what you say, finding something to hit isn't a puzzle, Shigeru Miyamoto. When you first enter the main mine, you are confronted with a map of the area that clearly defines where you are relative to where everything else is. There are no mini-maps. This is it, map on the wall, and you don't take it with you either. Seeing the closest thing to me was the office, I decided to go there first. I turned the place upside down and found a bottle of Baxtrin and an old weekly report dating back to 1945. The report talked about some old Inuit spirits that were referred to as the Turngate? Yeet? I don't know. And about an explosive-making guide locked away in a chest in the room because certain individuals blew off some fingers trying to make some cherry bombs. 1945. A simpler time. Not necessarily a better time, but a simpler time, where a couple of lads can blow off their fingers and have it be classified as a minor inconvenience. After reading the World War II era report, I saw the weird glowing object that the report had mentioned as well. Not knowing what it was, I touched it to find out. A white light takes over the screen, and a small text about what you see comes over the screen. Then, the white light dissipates. Philip then comments that maybe he shouldn't touch it, so of course we touch it again. Philip will comment in his head on most items in the environment if you right-click on them. He'll also comment on scripted events. Some things, he says, are more helpful than others.
Mr. Box.
I take the hint from the report and retrieve the explosive handbook from the chest. I leave the room only to be confronted by the first danger of the game. A dog. But this isn't your average dog. This dog is diseased with gingivitis, which affects 47% of adults in America. Knowing that a bite from this animal could send me to an American hospital where I could be crushed by health bills is horrifying. The accompanying music is also pretty dread-inducing. The game tells you that hiding and running is your best option, but the game also gave you a hammer. And if you have decent timing, you don't really need to hide, because you have a hammer. There are other less effective ways to dispatch enemies, but hammer beats them all, just like in real life. After dispatching the first foe, I make my way to storage. As soon as I walk in, the atmosphere hits me. With only the green light from my glow stick, I start to navigate the room. There is no music, just the faint sounds of someone or something breathing and scratching on the other side of the door, accompanied by the sound of something you can't see skittering around the room. At first, I was hoping to open the door and finally find someone, but as I listened and observed my surroundings, I was hoping whatever was on the other side would just stay there. This game has a really oppressive atmosphere at times, from its dark, dank caverns to its rusty, blood-covered walls. This game really has a knack for making you feel alone in whatever the hell you're in, with no chance of getting help from anyone. Even in the opening loading screen, it sets the tone of the game. And what you see and hear really makes you feel like this is true. You have no people, no chance of rescue, no nothing, just Philip versus whatever's down here. At least in the first half of the game. After exploring and puzzling around, you come across a radio that can only receive either that or Philip is a mute. The person on the other side of the radio is named Red, and well, he's a little strange to say the least. I'll let you listen to a conversation.
My memory is like something with a great many small holes. We shall be needing to perform some minor demolition work so that we might one day meet again. For this task, we shall require the use of a large, earth-eating metal monster, and that monster is thirsty for juice from the place where things are kept. By the way, you can call me Red. It's not my name, you understand, but I am sure you will agree it is a name rather similar to a cardigan, fetching when worn correctly.
At first, I didn't care too much to have a disembodied voice talking to me through a radio, but over time, I came to enjoy his company. By no means is it an Oscar-worthy performance, and it can be a little campy at times, but the voice actor does a good job of conveying your companion's declining mental state throughout his performance.
Those holes in my mind are increasingly gaping. You cannot breach the inner sanctum of the place of storing. The entryway is blocked. So what if the squashy material between my ears is squashier than most? I may not be perfect like a hanging picture, but my words are wise and backed up by time. A pox on both your brain cells. Try as I may, you must think that I deceive you with my admittingly cunning ways. As far as my eye has seen, our rocky grave extends, and yet you cast away my hope like you would a puppy freshly rolled in its own feces. I hope that your warped sense of morality is better company than I, because now it is all you have left.
I eventually became attached to my strange friend, and I would look forward to the next time I would hear his voice. It made me feel a little less alone. Red doesn't really let you in on what's happening in the facility, but he will let you know if you're heading in the right direction by chiming in when you reach a new area or if you pick up something you need for a puzzle, which is helpful, especially if you're lost or unsure.
I'm sorry. Sometimes my emotions are like a disobedient pet. Uncontrollable and often rolling in shit. Better safe than sorry, they say. But I think we are both sorrier than we are safe. A tunnel lies between a nearby watery cave and the place where things are kept. Take the second right from the closed door, and you will find what you seek.
Philip will also give you hints to what you're supposed to do by commenting on things or writing down on his to-do list. If you do ever get lost, just look at either your to-do list or your notes. Believe me, your answer will be there. Sometimes though, it's the puzzle itself that will make you feel lost. I've gotten pretty far without talking about specifics, but man, this game has some real obtuse puzzles. I feel like there are more good puzzles than bad, but I don't want to ruin the good ones, so I'll just explain some of the not so good ones. If you want to skip this part, go here. Alright, these games came out in 2007, but sometimes it really feels like a 90s point-and-click adventure with its puzzle logic.
There's a toolbox in there.
I'm gonna give you some puzzles you encounter throughout the games, and a look at the current inventory at the time, and you can tell me what you think you're supposed to do. You can pause for extra time if you need to. Alright, here's your first one. You're crawling through some vents when a pipe seeping freezing cold air blocks your path. The vent diverts you to this room, where there's a thermostat. There's nothing much of interest in the room, but when you right-click on the cooling system it says, a thermostat controlling the amount of coolant running through these pipes. This is what you have in your inventory at the time. And this is what the rest of the room looks like. What do you think you should do? That's right. You should pour the soda on it so it freezes the thermostat instantly and causes the freezer's malfunction to stop the steam from coming out of the pipes. Yeah, I don't know about that. Alright, here's another one. I'm gonna show you the room and what's in it, and you can decide what to do. Here's what Philip has to say about each thing. And here's your inventory. All right, go. That's right. We were supposed to slide the ship barrel over to the sparks to light it on fire, then put it under the sprinkler head to activate the fire alarm to open this door. If you didn't notice the sprinkler head, then you're like 90% of the people who walk into this room. It doesn't ever show up again either. And if you're playing the game on a darker setting like you're supposed to, you probably wouldn't see it at all. Anyway, moving on. This last puzzle is from the Requiem chapter. Your goal is to push this mystic ball over to this hole, where on the other side awaits more weird physics puzzles, but for now let's focus on this. Have you seen a pattern yet? Anything that'll let you through? You can rewind it a couple times until you find it, or skip forward to this timestamp if you want to figure it out by yourself. It will make you feel super smart to figure it out, but if you're not going to play the game, you can just stay. If you were thinking of going this way, you're wrong. There's not enough time to push it through before it gets vaporized. What you're supposed to do is push it up the wall and avoid that side altogether. Like, what the fuck is that? I know it's staring you right in the face, but all the info they give you about this ball is that it's too heavy to do that in the first place. You can't pick it up, you can't move it fast. Why would you be able to push it up a hill? I mean, you have trouble getting it out of the socket. Like I said, there are some really good puzzles, then there are some really obtuse puzzles. Most times, both puzzles make you feel smart when you figure them out, but sometimes, they'll leave you hollow and angry inside. Like, what the fuck is this one about? I'm not even sure how I did this one. I don't want to spoil too much because this game is pretty good, and if you have an interest in playing it, I recommend just going to play it. You can get it off Steam and GOG, and it goes on sale pretty regularly, and when it does go on sale, it's usually like 99 cents. I do recommend the GOG copy, because I was playing on the Steam copy originally, but it kept crashing during Requiem whenever it would load a level, so I couldn't get past the first level. I found out that there was just an error with the game that you could just go get a patch and install it yourself, but the GOG copy comes with it already installed, so if you're not good with dealing with files and such, that might be the copy for you. Alright, I'm not going to use a numerical rating system and conform just to satisfy big gaming, so I'll rate the chapters in order from most liked to least liked. My favorite chapter out of the whole series is Black Plague. In Black Plague, they take away your weapons, making you more vulnerable, and making you use the stealth mechanics. It also has some pretty good puzzles and segments that are really well done, and some really surreal moments, make you question whether you actually saw what you saw or did what you did, or if what you're seeing is reality or not. Black Plague also introduces, in my opinion, the best character in the series, Clarence, who is voiced by Robert Pike Daniel, an actor with some movies under his belt, and it shows in his performance. There is a puzzle in the game where you're formatting circuit boards, and it's as exciting as it sounds. While you're going about your task, he delivers this great line.
Human life is so banal. Is it always as monotone as this? I can't stand it. Let me out.
I love it. My second favorite chapter is Overture. It sets up the story and the events leading up to the Black Plague chapter really well, but it feels like a first game from a developer. Not Baby's first game, but it doesn't quite nail the gameplay like Black Plague does. The hammer and the weapons you have really dissipate the tenseness you're supposed to have when enemies are around, and it has some scripted running segments that if you're unlucky enough to get a bad checkpoint, you might be stuck in an unbeatable death loop.
Did it, no. I am so fucked. So recap that.
Unless, of course, you're an ultimate gamer with quick reflexes like me.
Oh! I am a god. I am a god. Alright, let's go.
That being said, I like the environments and the puzzles a little more in this one. They're a bit more grounded in reality, and they make the most sense out of the whole series. My least favorite chapter is Requiem. It feels like it was comprised of puzzles that just didn't make the cut. This chapter is just disjointed puzzle levels that aren't connected to each other in any meaningful way. You have to go around each level solving what loosely resembles a puzzle, and find these orbs to power up a teleporter so you can go to the next area and do the same thing. There's not anything pertaining to the story except for a recording of Red's voice and a slightly different ending. Well, kind of. I don't know. It seemed like an unnecessary addition to me. I think you could get away without playing this one if you wanted. Overall, I really enjoyed playing through all of Penumbra as a whole, and I would highly recommend it to those who really enjoy Frictional's games. It definitely aged like old milk with its models and textures, but its gameplay and story do hold up. The game makes you think differently than you normally would with its puzzles and logic, but mostly in a good way, and it's a refreshing break from the more formulaic games coming out of recent. The story isn't up to any mind-bending Kojima convoluted high standards, but I would say it sits well above good, if that makes sense. Though your character is a mute, the other characters in the game do talk and really sell the story, along with some in-depth world-building notes and emails. If you like horror games, I'd say this is a great one to add to your collection and try out. Who knows, you might find a new classic you never knew was out there. If I were to rate this game, I would give it the amount of times I messed up the giant worm chase over the amount of times I died during my spider chase checkpoint. 7 out of 10.